I'm Rick Kohler, and I'm sitting here with Phil Irwin. I'm the president of RLEP, the Rappahannock League for Environmental Protection, in 2016. And Phil is the founder of the Rappahannock League for Environmental Protection in 1970 and has been a fabulously contributing board member since that time. So Phil, when did you, I'd like to just interview you a little bit for posterity here. When did you first come to the county?
1960, I bought my first land in Rappahannock after having surveyed the surrounding landscape and found that it was all developed except Rappahannock County, and thought maybe this would be the last place to develop, and this is where I wanted to sink my taproot down.
And you found a farm here, which was down near Rock Mills at the time.
Bought my first land near Rock Mills, built a small A-frame house on it, and unable to get ownership of my view, sold it and bought Caledonia Farm back in 1967.
And you've been here ever since.
And I hope to be here forever.
Forever. Well, we all hope that.
I guarantee I'll be here forever.
That's good. That's good. When you came here, obviously you were attracted by the beauty of the county. And was there something else that you wanted when you came here? Did you move here permanently at that time?
I wanted to get away from the city where I had been stuck for quite a few years. And I wanted a place in the country. And Rappahannock County was the last place to develop in this area. I made many miles surveying the surrounding counties. And Rappahannock was clear enough going to be the last one to develop, and we've been able to keep it that way.
Thanks to you.
Well,
and people like you.
And people like all the predecessors
right.
that were responsible for maintaining this county the way it is. You see, we've never had a railroad, navigable waterway, or a major highway. And so growth went to the counties all around us and left us alone long enough to get good ordinances into place, such as requiring a developer to provide his own public water, public sewer, curbs and gutters, and school. And since developers don't do that, we have no development. We have no shopping centers, and still in Virginia, we believe we are the last county without a traffic light, although Highland County has one that doesn't blink red all the time.
Well, that's an accomplishment for the county.
Yes, we think so.
Yeah. And when you, RLEP, let's go to RLEP. You founded RLEP, or you helped to found RLEP in 1970.
I wrote a letter to the editor. I was visited by some of our local government people who drove in the driveway one Saturday, and they said, you know, there'll be a power line between you and the national park. I said, I didn't know that. And they said, nobody's doing anything. And so I wrote a letter to the editor in 1970, inviting people to the courthouse. The result of that meeting of 85 people back in 1970 resulted in RLEP, which subsequently has taken a lot of credit for the fact that there's very little development in Rappahannock County, and that which we do have is being done slowly.
Mm-hmm. So you, actually RLEP's taking up the mantle of the fight there, defeated, was that Allegheny Power, or that was?
That was Potomac Edison, back in the 1970 time period. They wanted to build a transmission line, which we subsequently beat here in the county. We suggested that it was better built someplace else, or better yet, they should increase the capacity of their existing lines rather than to create new corridors. And that's a concept that still goes today.
So, and that some of the players at that time were you and?
The people who formed RLEP?
Yes.
Oh, we had quite a few different people that were responsible. We had in the organization since 1970 many presidents, many directors, of people who have come and gone, and helped immensely along the way. We were preceded by some political people, like, you want some names?
Oh, sure.
George Davis, Newell Miller, H.B. Wood, Charles Foster, I'm going to forget a whole bunch of them, but those are the folks who had the foresight to make sure that this county was something that we could still be proud of today.
So we had the fight against the power line, and at that time we had just instituted some zoning, as I recall.
No, zoning came later.
Zoning came later.
Yeah.
Okay. And was that was part of that creating a comprehensive plan? And how did RLEP and did you fit into?
Well, the first zoning ordinance in the county was developed by a committee, and I was a guest on that, not officially, but a guest on that committee with a man by the name of Elmo Flint, who was my neighbor at the time. He was on the committee. And so we together had a lot to say about the original ordinance that was adopted, I believe, in '64. Comprehensive planning came later. RLEP invited a landscape architect. I'm not pulling his name out of my head, from the University of Virginia to talk about comprehensive planning. And so we were involved with the concept of comprehensive planning long before it was required by the state. I guess we're the first ones to start talking about it here in Rappahannock County.
In the entire state?
Mm-hmm. Comprehensive planning.
Wow. And then that led to the Board of Supervisors finding a county administrator?
That was a separate issue. We, back in 1986, I wrote a letter to the board suggesting that they hire an administrator because their staff included Peter Luke and Diane Bruce at the time. That was their entire staff. They needed a county administrator, and all the counties around us had one by that time. And the next year, John McCarthy was hired from the University of Virginia, and he learned everything he knows about comprehensive planning and being an administrator from what he learned here in Rappahannock County. So he's well educated to go on to his new job.
Right. So you and Newble and HB and a number of other people really were helped get the zoning established in this county? Am I correct?
Yeah, but I was never one of the government people. I was never in an elected position.
Right. You were doing this from your position as RLEP?
Position as president of RLEP for the first 17 years.
Mm-hmm. So, Phil, let's talk about conservation easements for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You put Caledonia Farm in easement.
Back in 1972, we applied for it and was granted the first easement in Rappahannock County in 1973. And we have easement number 12, although we were the third applicant for the easement. That was because Piedmont Environmental Council made that as a priority of their efforts. And so it sounded like a pretty good idea to me, and ever since it has proven to be one of the greatest of the land preservation things that you can do to property.
And RLEP took that on in the beginning there. Mm-hmm. And what about the easements there were a lot of easements created in the north end of the county?
That was due to a lot of the effort of the then president of the Piedmont Environmental Council, who made it a personal project to making sure that there was a barrier of easements that prevented any north-south condemnation of land for easements for power lines or sewers or anything else, transmission lines. But that was something that's kind of fun. If you look at a map, you see that barrier of land that has been prohibited from being condemned for public purposes.
And was that Bob Dennis?
Yeah.
So Bob Dennis, you and some others were very instrumental in that, it sounds like. I'm proud of you. Thanks.
Well, it's worked. We now have about 25% of Rappahannock County that's under easement, and another 25% in the Shenandoah National Park. So approximately 50 acres or 50% of Rappahannock County will never be developed.
One of the things that I really appreciate about you, Phil, makes you one of my heroes, as I've told you before, is what you've done with your own property. And I mean, you were the first conservation easement in the county, and you've done other things to your property. You're #1 on the bird watching list.
I brought the idea back from Texas in 1982, and in 1992, the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries finalized the first, and we believe only, statewide Virginia wildlife and birding trail. And we were delighted to be made stop #1. And so we begin the Virginia Birding and Wildlife Trail.
Right. And what else have you done on the farm here that has been a conservation oriented?
Oh, we've tried to do a lot of different things here from time to time. I have 15 acres of my property that is devoted to wildlife. It's growing up into climax forest, actually. We put a conservation easement on a pond, fenced the cattle out, and put it into what's known as a RLEP program, Conservation Enhancement Resource Program. And so that is our pond now for catch and release fishing. And you're liable to find a great blue heron over there, or wood duck. It's a wonderful little area. And we have fenced the cattle out of that area in order to protect it. We've also killed all invasive species on the farm. We have planted some native trees. There are 6 different varieties of native trees that have been planted. And let's see, we have an apiary. We have 2 colonies of bees. So in order to help the pollinators do their work in the area. And there's just a whole bunch of other things that we've done.
So you've been a steward of the land.
We intend to be a showplace of environmentally responsible agricultural practices. Yeah, and we are also a showplace of a couple that are not good practices. Namely, we have a couple of head of cattle too many on the place, and we cannot fence out the streams. If we were to take a 35-foot fence around all of our waterways, which begin here and feed the Chesapeake Bay, we would have no pasture left. So we still have some cattle that have access to streams on the property. But other than that, we try to be as responsible as we can to environmental considerations. The Smithsonian has put some camera traps on the place so that they can monitor the wildlife that uses our forage. I'm trying to think of a few other things. There's a whole bunch of them.
Right. Well, I know you've done old road cleanups.
Yeah, we are the oldest of the existing road cleanup operations for VDOT, and we do that when we take our walk along the byway here in front of the house.
Right. That inspired me to bring back the trash-free Rappahannock this past year, and I think that was a nice success. Part of your legacy.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that people still pollute, but throwing trash out of the car along the road is a very, very irresponsible act.
I would say so. Cigarette butts drive me crazy.
Yes, those two.
What do you think is the future of Rappahannock?
I'd like to see the future from wherever I'm going to be at that time to be much the same as it is today. Growth is inevitable. We are going to grow. There's no way around it. It's necessary in our free enterprise system, our society, to grow. But I want Rappahannock to grow slowly, and I want it to grow responsibly. We have still a great amount of subdivisions that are being created, plots that are surveyed off to build houses on. Now, that's going to happen, and we should not say we can't do that. We have not said that we can't do that and don't want to say it. But I think as long as it's done slowly and responsibly, keeping much of the land as possible in farming, for instance, open space, that is going to be the future of the county. And I think we are going to remain the last one to get a traffic light.
I'm happy to hear that. One of the things that we're working on right now, as you know, at RLEP is a dark skies or a starry skies program. And I've thought a lot about that. And I think that Rappahannock is looking for businesses to employ young people here. And it seems to me that if we could do that, create that environment of tourism here, because our comprehensive plan does focus on tourism. And,
well, dark skies is a part of our scenery, actually. The Milky Way has been seen by people for the first time who visit with us here on Caledonia Farm. They've never seen it before. And dark skies, we are protected here. All of the lights on Rappahannock County's premier farm are down shielded. And I think we need to continue to encourage people to down shield their lights. Any light that escapes sideways is a polluting factor. It's light pollution, and it's not necessary. It's an intrusion upon the neighbors, and you can have just as much light on your farm as you wish on your property, but it's not necessary to share the light with everyone else. Dark skies is a definite thing to be promoted.
yes, I think so. And I think it could create jobs, for young people, as if the tourist industry could build around that. You think that's potential?
I think that we already have to a certain extent. We market Rappahannock County as being the least developed county east of the mountains. And I think that the tourists who come here are really getting away from the city and getting away from the lights and away from the bugs.
The noise.
Yes, and the noise.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, would you like to say something? You've said a lot already, but is there anything you'd like to say that would be something that you feel would be the most important thing that we can do now as a county to preserve what we have and what you have helped create?
I think maintaining the ethic of appreciating the natural beauty that we are surrounded with has got to be promoted. And whatever development we do allow and encourage should be responsible to that ethic of maintaining the county in its present visual state. As a board member of Scenic Virginia, that's what we are trying to promote as a statewide organization, is the beauty of Virginia. And golden arches are not pretty, and electronic billboards are not pretty. They don't belong there. This is not natural. And I'm sure that future generations of not only people but wildlife will certainly appreciate the efforts that organizations like RLEP is promoting.
Keep it natural.
Keep it natural.
Phil, as I said, you're my hero.
It's my pleasure. We've devoted a large part of our lives to making sure this county stays this way as long as possible. And I hope to be able to continue that.
Me too. Thanks, Phil.
You bet.